What's going on, everybody? It's your man, Louie T, here with another installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Late night Louie edition. Got my drink in my cup. We're going to chop it up a little bit. Talk about some happenings around the National Football League. Is this the wrong year to need a quarterback? Some front office executives seem to think so. We'll talk about the free agent crop of quarterbacks that will be available. Boy, it is slim picking. Buddy, I'm so glad I am not among the teams. I am not a fan of the teams that are looking for a signal caller this offseason. We could talk about the draft a little bit. You guys are going to be proud of me. I started my pre-draft prep work today. I actually looked at some names. Look at me as we are on the cusp of the calendar turning to February. A lot of topics to get to. So let's not delay. Let's get straight to the proceedings this evening. You're locked into the 479th installment of the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 479th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. How's everybody doing on this beautiful Friday evening? Hope this week has treated you well. And I hope you are set up for an outstanding weekend. Glad you could carve out a little bit of time for the kid. I really appreciate you. You could be doing a lot of things on your Friday night, but instead you're here kicking it with me, and I can't thank you enough for that. We're going to talk about a number of topics today, mostly quarterbacks, because that's what's in. And I told you yesterday that we were going to come back. Or was it the day before yesterday? Last podcast episode. We're going to talk about quarterbacks. And there are a lot of quarterback needy teams in the NFL. We're going to talk about teams that should want quarterbacks, and then the teams that need quarterbacks, and what the crop of QBs look like this upcoming offseason. So with that said, before we dive into that topic, let's go to the gem dropping session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. Let's use this gem dropping session as a de facto in case you missed it. We did that last podcast episode. It was so nice. I said, hey, let's just do it twice. So we're going to run it back. We're going to do it again today. So let's start. We said today was going to be a QB intensive episode. So let's start the episode talking about quarterbacks, shall we? In case you missed it. I told you this about maybe a month and a half ago, when it was first reported that Shedeur Sanders wasn't going to go to the Senior Bowl. Instead, he was going to go to the East-West Shrine game. Interesting choice. His explanation for going there, I love it. I don't know how true it is. I think he just wanted to be different, wanted the stage to himself. All the other quarterbacks are at the Senior Bowl, right? So I think he saw an opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to be different. I'm going to be here by myself and have the attention all to myself. He said that he wanted to bring attention to other players, knowing that he was going to be one of the most sought after prospects in this year's draft class. A lot of eyeballs on him. They're going to be scouts and executives at the East West Shrine week of practice and game that would not have normally been there if Shedeur Sanders wasn't there. So I love that answer from him. But in any event, the Titans said, well, shit, that's where Shedeur is. We've got homework to do. Let's make the trek to the East West Shrine game, and let's talk to Shedeur, right? Well, guess who sat in on the conversation essentially? Like, hey, when you sit down with them, call me. Old Pops. That's right. Deion Sanders himself was involved with the call with the Tennessee Titans as they talked to Shedeur Sanders. He called in as they sat down with Shedeur at the East West Shrine game. I don't know how I feel about that. Look, I'm all about a father making sure that everything that is done is in the best interest of his son, especially one that has played in this league and knows the politics of how things go. But is that a bit much? Is that a bit much to have him sitting in on these meetings and being present and knowing everything that's being talked about? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but I guess, look, it's not my place to say what he should or shouldn't do for his son. And he's pressed all of the right buttons for his son to this point. So, I'm not going to criticize, but I've talked about this already, and I said this is what comes with the Shedeur Sanders package. You're not just drafting Shedeur Sanders, you're drafting his father, Deion, as well, and all that comes with the last name Sanders. So Deion has a show that he does with Roxy on Tubi TV, if I'm not mistaken. So there's that, and there's different platforms he's going to have. Obviously, Deion is the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes. And trust me, Deion Sanders is not afraid to speak up. If he doesn't like something that's going on, he's going to be very vocal about it, whether that's on social media or on his show or during a press conference during his college football season. If he gets asked about it, which I'm pretty sure someone at the press conference is going to ask him about his son and how he's doing. So you're going to have to deal with Deion Sanders one way or the other. It's a known fact. Now, teams are aware of Deion. They know what he brings to the table, understands. And this is a part of the vetting process, I would assume. They want to know what they're getting in bed with if they were to draft Shedeur Sanders. So this is a very important process for Shedeur. I would love to see him throw it at the combine. We always want to see these quarterbacks, spin it at the combine. I don't think you lose anything by throwing at the combine personally. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens at his pro day, et cetera, and who will be the first quarterback off the board. Will a quarterback go number 1 overall? We'll see. Titans are already talking that shit about we're not passing on a generational talent. Well, none of the quarterbacks in this draft class, newsflash, I don't think anybody's surprised by this, are generational talents. We have to stop using that phrase, by the way. You can't use the phrase generational talent every year. It waters down the phrase and it takes away from the actual meaning of the phrase generational talent. Can't have a generational talent every year. So I don't know if there's a generational talent in this draft. There's some really talented guys. Travis Hunter is really talented. Abdul Carter is really talented. Are they generational talents? I don't think so. In order to be a pass rusher that's a generational talent, you have to look like Myles Garrett and play like Myles Garrett. That's a generational talent. You can't look like Chase Young and, or look like Myles Garrett and play like Chase Young. Or you can't look like Von Miller and play like, I don't even know if Von Miller would get drafted at, I think he was number 2 in his draft class. That get off was ridiculous, and we've seen what he's done. But I don't know if Von Miller gets drafted second overall at his size now. But knowing what we know now about Von Miller, probably does anyway. But I digress. I don't think there's a generational talent in this draft. So we'll see what the Titans decide to do. But Deion Sanders called into his son's meeting with the Titans and was a part of it. Here we go. Off and running. In case you missed it, we talked about this at the end of the season, right? Samuel Darnold. Reports are, and look, we're currently in lying season. Y'all know how I feel about this. And you know what I say every year. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. Y'all know what it is now. Put your thinking caps on, put your listening ears on. First of all, let me say this. Did y'all see the plane crash in Philly? Did you see that shit? What the fuck is going on with these planes? That's 2 plane crashes in the matter of what? 3 days now? Planes crashing into each other, planes taking off and nose diving in neighborhoods and shopping malls. Like, what are we doing? What the hell is going on right now? Seriously, what are we doing? That's some scary shit, obviously, not just for the people on board, but the people who are just minding their business, you know, walking around, and all of a sudden here comes a plane crashing into your neighborhood. Wild shit, man. Scary shit. Prayers up to all those affected by the plane crashes that have happened over the last 72 hours or so. Unbelievable. How does 2 planes crash into each other? How is that even possible? This isn't 1954. What's going on? Is there no air traffic control? What are we doing? How does a plane take off and nosedive into a neighborhood, into a shopping center? What is going on? Seriously. Unreal. Unreal. Prayers up for all those impacted. My goodness. That's some scary stuff. I watched at least 12 videos on the one that just happened literally hours ago. Unbelievable. Like, people are on filming a burning plane with their phone, like literally 50 yards away from a plane that's on fire. And I'm just in awe of this, like watching this, like I can't believe what my eyes are watching right now. This is insane. People walking out of establishments, hearing this loud boom, running back inside. Just unfathomable. Like, wow. Unreal. So, sorry for that tangent. It just popped into my head and I needed to say something. I was supposed to start the show with that, but I blanked. So, my apologies. In case you missed it, we talked about Samuel Darnold at the end of the season in those last 2 games, the last 2 images of Samuel Darnold to finish up the 2024 season weren't good. Not very good. Not very good. And we talked about the impact of those last 2 starts. I remember I said the player that had the most to gain and lose heading into wild card weekend was Samuel Darnold. He then proceeded to go out and wet the bed, sacked 7 or 8 times against the Vikings, or excuse me, against the Rams. They put up, what, 9 points, I believe? 9 points, if I'm not mistaken. 7 points, something like that, en route to a comfortable Rams victory in which the Vikings looked non-competitive. he looked like the Sam seeing ghost Darnold of Jets, of his Jets fame versus the Sam Darnold that led that Vikings team to a 14 and what 14-3 record and the 5th seed in the NFC playoffs. He had 2 stinkers to finish up. Couldn't get it done on the road against Detroit in the final game of the regular season, and then had an awful playoff game. And I said this, and a lot of you said the same thing as we had that conversation. We had multiple conversations about Sam Darnold right around that time frame. And when he had that last game, the playoff game, we said this has to impact his free agent status. Now, he's still the best quarterback available with the combination of talent and age this free agency period. However, there was conversations about him getting Geno Smith money, and I talked about that, and I said after they were, going into that final week of the season, that week 18 clash with the Lions for the number 1 seed, I said he's slated right now on pace to get a Geno Smith type deal, one of those 3-year, $104 million deal type contracts, right? He was heading on a crash course for that. 3 years, $93 million. No one ever saw Sam Darnold getting that type of money after he left the Jets and then started making a NFL tour around the league, Carolina, San Francisco, obviously Minnesota. No one saw this coming. But we were talking about him potentially getting some Geno Smith love. And then those 2 games happened. Week 18, wild card weekend, and we said, whoa. Don't know who's going to be looking forward to paying him good money to see him shrink in the biggest moments of the season. Well, right after they were eliminated, and maybe the next week that followed, reports were, those games didn't affect Sam Darnold's free agency, contractual situation. He's still going to get paid Geno Smith-esque money. And I'm like, really? You sure about that? I stuck to my guns. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not buying that. Now, all it takes is one desperate team, one, to say, if you're really a former top 5 pick, I'll pay you. All it takes is one. But the report is teams are scared of Sam Darnold deal this offseason. Teams are reportedly scared. Again, it's lying season. Take it with a grain of salt. But I don't think this is a lie. Okay. I think this is teams assessing the situation and saying, what are we doing here? What are we paying for actually? Like, what are we actually going to get if we give him this money? You have to ask yourself that. I bust him all the way down from Geno Smith money to above average bridge backup quarterback money, meaning normally the standard going rate for a bridge backup quarterback that could start the first 6 to 8 weeks for you is anywhere from $10 to $12 million a year, right? What did Gardner Minshew sign? A 2-year, $26 million deal in Vegas? That's $13 million. That's the going rate for a bridge, right? I think Marcus Mariota got 10 last year, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that neighborhood. No, I think he got 6. I think Mariota got 6. But a couple of years ago, there were like 4, bridge start, Andy Dalton, Ryan Fitzpatrick. This was the 2021 season. It was like 4 of them signed. And I think they all got like 10 to 12 million. think Jacoby Brissett last year in Washington got like 8 to 10 million, somewhere in there. I'd bust him down to that, just slightly above that. So somewhere in that 14 to 16 million range, right around 15 a year, right? Someone might sign him on a 1 year, $15 million deal with incentives. It could get up to, 20 million or something like that. That's what I see him commanding now. And maybe he's able to get someone for 1 year, 17 million, 2 years, 33 million. But the second year isn't guaranteed and there's an exit ramp, right? I can't see him getting Geno Smith money now. He needed to finish strong. He literally undid all that he built in that season, all of the goodwill that he built up during the course of the season. He undid it in 2 weeks. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. In case you missed it, this is something, if you're a Commanders fan, you need to listen up. Reports are that T. Higgins won't reset the wide receiver market. Now, I don't think that's a surprise to anyone listening. I don't think that's a surprise to any Commanders fan. None of us thought that T. Higgins was going to reset the wide receiver market. And as I just said about Samuel Darnold, all it takes is one team, like the Patriots, for instance, to say, hey, we'll make you the highest paid receiver in the league. Just come to New England, man. And if you're T. Higgins and your ego is big enough, you might say, you know what? I want to be the highest paid receiver in the league, even if it's only for 1 day. And then my former teammate, Jamar Chase, one-ups me. But at least I can say I was at one point the highest paid receiver in the league. And even after he's no longer the highest paid receiver in the league, he'll be making more money than guys like Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. And you can go down that list of guys, Tyreek Hill, that are better than him, but he's making more money than them. So his ego may say, no, go be the highest paid receiver. And that might be New England. But if the market dictates this in the right manner, he shouldn't be even remotely close to being the highest paid receiver in football, because he's not the best receiver in football. And generally, owners in the league don't like to overpay because it sets the precedence, it changes the market, and owners they say that they're not colluding, but they are. They collude all the time. And part of that is, hey, you can't overpay a guy. Like, just like players, it is in their best interest if you're doing right by the other players in the league. You hear this all the time with, quarterback like Dak Prescott said, I would be doing my position and the other players around the league a disservice if I didn't try to get the most money I could in a contract. He's not wrong, but you're also doing, your team a disservice because you're actually not that good and you're eating up a ton of their cap space. But he's not wrong, because if I set the bar at this level, the next guy's going to come and he's going to eclipse that, and it's just going to keep pushing the position, the amount of money that position garners forward. And that's what you want. If you take less, then you're not pushing that bar up any higher. And so you're not doing the rest of the players in the league or the rest of the quarterbacks or that particular position any favors. So in saying that, T. Higgins probably isn't going to see anything more so. In the article that I read, they said that his number is probably going to be somewhere in between the Jalen Waddle contract and the Devontae Smith contract. And as we all know, Devontae Smith took less to remain in Philadelphia. He signed a contract that paid him roughly somewhere in that 25 million a year realm. So like 3 years, 75 million, something like that. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, give or take 3 million or so. And Waddle signed a 3-year like 87 million, I think it was. It was like 28 and some change, I believe. Deal 28 point something, a year. Let's just call it 28 million a year for 3 years on an extension to stay in Miami. So between 25 and 28, that's where they think he's going to land. I'm thinking more along the lines of 28, 29, 30. I don't think he should exceed 30, but I could see an outcome where he's making like signs a 4-year, $121 million deal. So it's slightly over 30 million a year, right? But we'll see where he actually ends up and how much he ends up getting. But I don't think, and I never thought he was going to reset the wide receiver market, but it's good to hear that he shouldn't reset the wide receiver market. In case you missed it, Brock Purdy to get a Daniel Jones type deal from the San Francisco 49ers. This is very interesting because we wondered after the season he turned in this year, and look, a lot of what happened in San Francisco was not Brock Purdy's fault. A ton of injuries beset that team this year, and they just could not overcome them. It started with Christian McCaffrey, and it just trickled down to the rest of the roster. You also had the Brandon Ayuk saga in the offseason, the Trent Williams saga in offseason. Both of them, coincidentally enough, or maybe it's not a coincidence, ended up getting hurt and not really playing for the team during the course of the season. And, it kind of just went downhill from there. Purdy was solid, but all of those injuries sort of highlighted what a lot of us already knew, which is Purdy is a caretaker. He is a driver of a very nice vehicle. When the vehicle needs maintenance, isn't clean, it could be a little rough, right? When the car's clean, it has its proper maintenance. Brock Purdy's a great driver. Everyone loves him. But if you need a guy to carry you, it ain't Brock Purdy. Okay. So that was made apparent this year. But he's still a starting caliber quarterback in this league and a guy that has gone to the NFC Championship game twice in his career, in his young career, and once to the Super Bowl already in his young NFL career. So he still needs to be compensated for that. So the Daniel Jones deal, just to remind you of what that looks like, or what it did look like. Daniel Jones signed a 4-year, 160, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, $160 million deal. And I think there was an exit ramp after year 2, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of that money was guaranteed. So the consensus is, with inflation, Purdy will sign a 4-year, $196 million deal, like 112 of it or so, or maybe more, will be fully guaranteed. And obviously, he'll have to earn a lot of that money in incentives, etc. And there will be an exit ramp in case he is not what they thought he was. And so that's an interesting, situation, because most quarterbacks aren't looking to take what market value is for them. If you're Brock Purdy, you can play hardball. It's what Kirk Cousins did. Because at the end of the day, teams are going to give in. No one wants to be walking around in the quarterback wilderness ever. It's not safe. And so if Brock Purdy says, nope, I don't want to sign your 4-year, $196 $96 million deal. What is that? Just shy of 50 million a year. So what was that? 49 million a year. If you're Brock Purdy and you're like, I was thinking north of 50. I was thinking like 206 million, or I was thinking 210. Let's make it a nice round number. I was thinking like 210. And the 49ers are like, no, we weren't thinking that high. We weren't thinking north of 200 million. We were thinking 196. And he was like, yeah, I was thinking like 210. So yeah, let's try to make that happen, or else I'll just play out the final year of my contract. You can franchise tag me. We can do this song and dance. And just like Dallas, who had a gun to their head, you're going to have to make a decision. You don't want to be without a quarterback, and you're going to have to give me what I want. So the price of the pack isn't going down, right? It's going to go up, especially if he plays well and he wins the Super Bowl. Then you really are up shit creek. So Purdy could play hardball, but I want to see if he's going to say, you know what, I'll just take what you're giving me. I'm cool with that, because that's what he deserved. Like, he should be signing a Daniel Jones-esque contract. He's not Daniel Jones, first and foremost. But he's better than Derek Carr. And Carr signed a very similar contract to Daniel Jones. And he's above those quarterbacks, but he's not quite in the category of the guys that are above him. So I always like when quarterbacks understand who they are and take a contract accordingly, but that's not always the easiest thing to get done. Because again, as a quarterback, you don't have to play by the rules that everybody else has to play by. Like a receiver, has to play by the rules. I mean, you can play hardball and do all of this. Running backs have to play by the rules. They can play hardball, but what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You gonna go Le'Veon Bell and hold out? They don't give a shit. I mean, they don't want you to, but life moves on, right? We'll find another running back. Don't want my star receiver out, but just like Cincinnati stalled out Jamar Chase, what you gonna do, bro? So you gonna hold out? No, you're not gonna hold out. You don't have that kind of power, my guy. No position does like the quarterback position. That's the only position that can grab an organization by the balls and say, what you gonna do? No other position can do that. And if Brock Purdy wanted to do that to the 49ers, theoretically speaking, he could. But he could also say, you know what? I'm going to be a great team player. I know my worth. This is what I'm worth, and I'm willing to sign for that. We'll see what happens. I'm fascinated by what happens here. He said he wants to get this thing done before phase 1 of the offseason program. He does not want this thing lingering. So if that's the mindset you're going in with, then it sounds like something should be able to get done relatively quickly. But talk is cheap. Contracts are not. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Let's transition to our next segment of the show, and that's, of course, social media maneuvers. I'm a midnight marauder. Y'all know what it is, and y'all know how this goes. So if you're out there and you want your comment read on the air, super chats are the best way to get that done. Allows you to jump straight to the front of the line, and also allows your comment to be read and reacted to on the air, and it guarantees that that takes place. However, you can use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent, and more importantly, if time permits. Can't assure you that that's going to take place, but you can give it a shot, roll the dice, and we'll see what happens. So with that said, let's go ahead and get to social media maneuvers. Before we get to the comment section, I see I got a super chat, so I want to knock that out. I want to set the stage. I want to talk about the quarterback position and teams that need quarterbacks, and then the actual quarterbacks that are available themselves. So let's talk about quarterback needy teams. Let's start with the teams that should want a quarterback. They don't necessarily need a quarterback, but they should want a quarterback, a young quarterback for developmental purposes, so that they don't get caught with their pants down once their veteran quarterback or the young guy that they drafted that probably isn't any good turns out to not be any good. They got another guy, right? Always want to be prepared at the quarterback position. You never want to get caught without a quarterback. You always want to be prepared. That's how the rich stay rich. That's how the Packers stay relevant. They draft Aaron Rodgers even though they got Brett Favre. They draft Jordan Love even though they got Aaron Rodgers. That's how the rich stay rich. You never allow your situation to be dire. That's how the Chiefs stayed relevant. They had Alex Smith, they drafted Patrick Mahomes, and they kept the party going, right? Don't ever allow yourself to get to where, oh shit, what are we going to do? So, with that said, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams that should be in the market for a quarterback this offseason. Now, of those 10 teams, 4 of them want a quarterback or should want a quarterback. They don't necessarily need a quarterback. They have one. He's a veteran, and he's still really good, or at least serviceable in certain instances. And in one other instance, he's a young guy. I don't think he's very good, but at this point, if you're the head coach, you're skating on thin ice. Can you afford to risk your head coaching career on a guy that has not shown you the ability to be consistent? That might cost you your job. You probably want to get a veteran in there. And they've already said, because the GM is in the same boat with that head coach, we're going to get a veteran in here to compete because we can't be bullshitting around with your ass. So with that said, let's talk about those teams, and then we'll get to the teams that absolutely have to do something at quarterback. It's not optional. If you do not do this, then we have a problem. Starting with the New Orleans Saints. I actually read an article the other day that stated that the New Orleans Saints are really smitten by Spencer Rattler. Now, I like Spencer Rattler, and I told you he was the wild card of last year's draft class. I likened him to Sam Howell in that regard. Howell was what, a 5th round pick? Was Rattler a 5th round pick? Might have been. Maybe 6th. Don't think he was any earlier than 5th. Whatever the case may be, he was intriguing. And he got an opportunity. Derek Carr was banged up. Jake Haener stinks. And he got an opportunity to start multiple games. He came in relief against Washington and nearly pulled off an improbable come-from-behind victory. He had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week number 18 on the ropes. They were up 16-6 in that game at one point. And he had his moments this season. Did Spencer Rattler. But were there enough flashes for them? Because you still have Derek Carr, obviously. He's still your starting quarterback. But he stinks. Is Spencer Rattler a good enough prospect for you to feel comfortable with that you don't need to do anything at the quarterback position? I don't know. You tell me. I've seen this, and I said this to the Eagles offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. I told him, just like I told Mike McCarthy, Don't do it. Reconsider. Read some literature on the subject. Do not take the Saints job. Make them give that job to some poor, unsuspecting bum. Make them give it to some offensive coordinator that wasn't getting this job, some special teams coordinator that is disposable. Like, they should have just given the job to Darren Rizzi, honestly. Let him stink it up for 2 years, just like the Raiders did with Antonio Pierce, except it was just 1 year with AP. But let him stink it up for a couple of years. Nothing like taking a special teams coach, giving him a head coaching job, letting him stink it up for a year or two, firing him, and then letting him collect the check for the next 3-4 years. That's what the Texans did with David Culley, right? I wouldn't want the job, and we're hearing Kellen Moore all of a sudden. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna interview again, but I'm gonna wait till after the Super Bowl. When he's got time to think about the shit, and he's already getting cold feet. Like, do I want my first head coaching opportunity to be with Derek Carr and Spencer Rattler? I don't know about that. I don't know if that's a good decision. I'm telling you right now, it's not a good decision. Go back to Philadelphia, bro. But we'll see what he decides to do. So the Saints, I think they should want a quarterback. They don't need a quarterback, but they should want one, I think. Indianapolis Colts. They definitely need a quarterback. And they've already said that they're going to bring in competition for Anthony Richardson. Joe Flacco was there last year. He's 40 years old. He didn't play consistent enough. There were flashes, the Pittsburgh game, the Tennessee game last year, even the Jacksonville game to a lesser degree, where he played well, but there were a lot more instances of Joe showing his age and his ass last season. And thus, they got to go in a different direction. And they will. And that feels like a destination for a Marcus Mariota, a Kirk Cousins. If you're looking to trade for a quarterback, that feels like a destination potentially for Sam Darnold, who I think would be a really good fit for Shane Steichen's offense. He did wonders with Gardner Minshew. If you can do wonders with Gardner Minshew, Sam Darnold's the same type of quarterback, just with a bigger frame and a bigger arm, right? It's a better talent than Gardner Minshew. And they won 9 games with Gardner Minshew and almost made the playoffs. So Sam Darnold could go in there and do some damage. And I wouldn't be shocked if that's where he ends up. But Anthony Richardson ain't it. He ain't it. And so Colts are going to do something at quarterback. And it's not going to be via the draft either. It's going to be a free agent, or they're going to trade for someone. So they're a quarterback want team, are the Colts. But they pretty much have already said, we're going to do something. Rams. Matthew Stafford, after the loss in the divisional round to the Eagles, said, I'm going to contemplate my future. He's coming back. He's not retiring. And I saw something today where he said, I want to play again, but we have to restructure the contract. So, newsflash, he wants more money. He's going to Aaron Donald the Rams. Remember when Aaron Donald threatened to retire? He was like, yeah, I won the Super Bowl. I think I'm done. And then he was like, if you give me more money, I'll come back. So they ripped his contract up and gave him new money. And he was like, yeah, all of a sudden I want to play again. Stafford's, I feel like he just, after the Super Bowl, got a new contract. What was that, 2 years ago? And, 3 years now, because the Chiefs have won the last 2. They're going for 3 now. So, feel like he just got a contract, but I mean, that was 3 years ago. So, guess he is due for some new money, I guess. So, he'll be back, but I only bring the Rams up because what happens if Stafford decides, yeah, I'm done, or which isn't going to happen, but this is more realistic. His back flares up. He's had back issues. His shoulder flares up. He's had shoulder issues. He gets concussed. He's had concussion issues. What if something happens to him during the course of the season that forces him to miss 2 to 4 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks? What then? Who do you turn to? I need to do something. I know they got Jimmy Garoppolo. Are you really cool with Jimmy Garoppolo? But more importantly, F Jimmy Garoppolo, and let's move Stafford aside for a second. Who's your future plan in LA? What's the future look like? It ain't Jimmy Garoppolo. He's just if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, you need a Jimmy Garoppolo. You need a competent veteran backup quarterback. You do not want a young quarterback as your backup if you're trying to win something of note, right? You need a veteran who's poised, who's been there, done that, who's played snaps in this league, has been a starter. That's who you want backing up your starting quarterback, which Jimmy Garoppolo is. However, I'm talking about your future. Who's that guy? If I'm the Rams, I'm not interested in the free agent crop. I'm interested in one of these young quarterbacks. I'm interested in Jackson Dart. I'm interested in Quinn Ewers. Not one of these dudes is going to go first round. Not one of these dudes is going to go top 15. I'm interested in one of these second, third, fourth round dudes. They did it a few years ago with the Georgia quarterback, Stetson Bennett. That didn't last very long. So why not take another shot in the dark? Throw another dart. What's the worst that can happen? Let him sit behind Stafford for a year or two. Let him learn. And then he gets an opportunity. And maybe he actually, I think Quinn Ewers would be the perfect guy. Kind of plays like Stafford. He's not Stafford. He doesn't have the athleticism nor the arm that Stafford has. But he kind of plays from the pocket like Stafford does. Has functional mobility. Not a great athlete necessarily, but he can do enough from that's where Stafford is at this point of his career. Functional athlete, but he's not a guy that's going to move a ton. Quinn Ewers would be, I think, a really good fit for Sean McVay. Draft that kind of guy. Let him develop. Seattle Seahawks, final team that I feel like should want a quarterback. Now, question is, how much longer are you going to ride Geno Smith? Pause. He just was excellent from a completion percentage standpoint this year, and he actually played well. But you were trying to move Geno Smith last offseason, so clearly the future for Geno Smith in Seattle isn't going to be much longer. He signed, a 3-year deal 2 years ago, so this is probably the final year of that deal, if I'm not mistaken. So once again, what does the future look like at the quarterback position for the Seattle Seahawks? You could just bring Geno Smith back on another 2-year deal and extend him out 2 years and say, no, we love Geno. I don't think that's happening. Is Sam Howell the answer you clearly thought he was when you traded a 4th-round pick for him? Is he the answer? You need to find out. Because if he's not, you need to have the heir pair on your roster, learning from Geno Smith and getting prepared to take over the mantle when Geno Smith is no longer capable or you don't want him to do that anymore. So I think Seattle should be looking around. They were going to draft Michael Penix. They were planning on drafting Michael Penix. He wasn't going to make it there because Vegas was going to draft Michael Penix. Nobody thought Atlanta was going to draft him at 8. And Vegas was prepared to draft him at 12. I believe they were at 12. And the Seahawks were prepared to draft Michael Penix Jr. at 16. Obviously, he didn't make it that far. So they were looking to put themselves in a position to be prepared for a transition at the quarterback position. Just didn't work out in their favor. So I still think you should be kind of looking at that type of scenario. The only issue is this draft stinks at quarterback after you get past the first 2. Speaking of which, these are the quarterbacks this year in the draft. And we're going to look at the free agent crop. Not pretty here in a second. But these are the notable names. Obviously, there are other guys that are going to be available in this year's draft as well that I don't name. But these are the main guys here: Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, and Jackson Dart. Those are the names of the guys that'll probably hear their name called first in this draft. Those are the names of the guys that'll probably hear their names called first at the quarterback position. Now, after the first two, don't ask me where the rest of the quarterbacks are drafted. You may get one more first-round quarterback taken. If I had to guess, I'd say it'd be Jackson Dart. I'd be my guess. Back end of the first round, someone takes a flyer on him. You want that extra year to see what he can do, so you take him in the first round. But honestly speaking, I think those two are your first rounders, and then I don't think you see another first round quarterback. And then maybe you see two more come off the board in the second round, and then after that, it's anybody's guess, right? So if you're Seattle, you pick from that group right there that I just mentioned. Maybe you like Kyle McCord. I don't know. Maybe Jackson Dart might be a great fit in Seattle. He feels like a Seattle Seahawk to me. Anyway. Now let's get to the teams that need a quarterback. Tennessee Titans, drafting at the top of the draft, talking that crazy shit about we're not gonna pass on a generational talent. Okay, guy. So let's say you draft Abdul Carter. Now what? What are you gonna get? Jackson Dart in the second round? I mean, all you did was replace Will Levis with a smaller Will Levis. Great job. That's what you did with Will Levis. You drafted him at the top of the second round, and now you're looking for a quarterback 2 years later, right? Do yourself a favor, take a quarterback at 1. You earn the right to take the best quarterback in this year's draft class. If it doesn't work, you just do it again 3-4 years from now. But you have to keep swinging at the quarterback position. You could draft Myles Garrett at 1. Look at the Browns. He wants out. They're not trading him. You can draft a generational talent at the top of a draft. If it's not a quarterback, and if you don't have a quarterback, we've talked about this. You don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance in this league. Who cares if you have Abdul Carter and he's getting 22 sacks a season? Who cares? Myles Garrett just became the first pass rusher in NFL history to have, 14 or more sacks in his first 4 seasons. Each of his first 4 seasons. 14 or more sacks, I believe that number was. Who cares? They don't have a quarterback. They went 4-13 or 3-14 this year. I think they went 3-14 this year. Who cares? Great for Myles Garrett. I was watching Hard Knocks the other day, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm a half sack away from a sack and a half away from setting an NFL record." It was like, "Oh yeah," because he needed a half a sack to get to 100, and then another sack on top of that to be the first player in NFL history. It's a great accomplishment, a great feat to say, hey, of all the great pass rushers that have come through the NFL over the years, none of them can do can say they did what I did, which is have 14 or more sacks in each of my first 4 years in the league. But you won 3 games this year. And that's what he cares about. When he closes his eyes at night, he's like, we suck ass. Guess what? If you're the Titans, good. Go draft Abdul Carter. Yeah, you got you a generational talent. Ding! Now what? You still won 4 games this year. Great job. Like, who gives a shit if you draft what's the damn what's the boy from Colorado? Golly. Travis Hunter. You draft Travis Hunter and he can play both ways. That's great. First of all, who's throwing him the damn football? Who's doing that? And then what if he could be a shutdown corner? Great. You still lost the game 20-10 because you couldn't score any points. Great job. Hey, but he locked it down. He locked it down on that one side. And they got L'Jarius Sneed on the other side. You might not be able to throw the ball on them this year. They draft Travis Hunter. Great. But the other team still managed to score 20 points and you only scored 10, so you lost. Great job. Man, if you don't draft a quarterback and stop bullshitting. Browns. Deshaun Watson situation is a mess. At this point, I think you owe it to yourself to just draft a quarterback just so you can have an exit plan for Deshaun Watson because he's clearly not it. And I remember I told y'all this at least 7 times, at a bare minimum 7 times over the last year and a half. I said, Kevin Stefanski's offense is not for Deshaun Watson. And Stefanski tried his best to tailor the offense to the skill set and the strength of Deshaun Watson. When they made the trade, I said, this isn't a good trade from this standpoint. He doesn't fit what Kevin Stefanski wants to do. Watson is best out of the gun. Stefanski wants a guy to get under center because he comes from that Shanahan, kind of tree where you're running, ZBS, outside zone, inside zone. He wants to go heavy play action fake. Like Baker Mayfield was a perfect fit for Kevin Stefanski. It just didn't work because, Baker was being inconsistent. But that's the kind of quarterback. Like Flacco thrived in Cleveland that year when they went to the playoffs, 2 years ago, right? 2 seasons ago, rather. And you just look at Deshaun Watson, that's not who he is, right? He's an off-schedule, from the gun type of quarterback, right? Spread them out, let me operate type of guy. That's not what Stefanski does. So now rumor has it, Stefanski's like, yo, I want to get back to me. I want to get back to the basics of what I do. So we need to get us a quarterback in here that can do that, right? Jameis Winston was more of that type of quarterback. That's why the offense looked better, but Jameis is going to throw it to the other team, right? We know that. And so it could be going good for 3 quarters, but at some point, Jameis is going to show his ass because that's what Jameis does. But he's a better fit for what Stefanski likes to do traditionally, which is why the offense looked better when Jameis came in there. So for me, you don't want Cam Ward because he's a lot like Deshaun Watson in the sense of better from the gun, spread it out, let him kind of operate off schedule. You want Shedeur Sanders. He's going to be more of, from the pocket, traditional, can get under center, do all of those things. He did a lot of gun, obviously, in college, but he can probably get under center. I don't think he's going to have any issues with that. And he'll be able to operate from the pocket. And so if you're the Browns, you got to take a quarterback, man. Like, this isn't optional. DTR ain't it. Watson tore his Achilles, shredded his knee up, and then did it. He re-injured and re-aggravated the Achilles injury. So his timeline got pushed back again. He's not going to be ready anytime soon. And not that you care, to be honest with you. You're like, yeah, take your time, bro. You're done here, really. At the end of the day, you're done here. But take your time. So you got to draft the quarterback if you're Cleveland. And that's not optional. You may even, I would say you may even look at bringing in a veteran, but you're so financially hamstrung by the Deshaun Watson contract, and I know he's restructured. You're screwed, though. You don't want to bring in any more guys. But if you're Kevin Stefanski, you also don't want to lose. And Myles Garrett said, I'm not trying to rebuild, so that means you probably got to bring in some sort of veteran quarterback that makes him feel like you're trying to win something. They're in a tough spot, but they got to do something at quarterback. That's not optional for the Browns. And good thing is they're in a great spot to do it at number 2. They're definitely taking a quarterback. I don't know what the hell the Titans are going to do, but the Browns are definitely taking a quarterback. Raiders need a quarterback. And technically speaking, they still have Gardner Minshew on the roster. Whoop-diddy effing do, right? They got Aiden O'Connell. Once again, whoopie, whoop-diddy effing do, right? So I just essentially told you they don't have any quarterbacks. They got to do something. And similar to Myles Garrett, Max Crosby's like, yo, I'm not trying to rebuild nothing. I look, y'all got to show me that there's some sort of plan or I might want out. So the Raiders got to do something at quarterback. Pete Carroll's coming to town, and all of a sudden there's all these rumors about him linking back up with Russ. If you're a Commanders fan, you know, I saw an article that suggested he go get Bobby Wagner to help him set the culture in Vegas. Wagner's from the West Coast. So it would make sense if Bobby was like, you know what, I would, because that's why Bobby went to LA. And when he left the Seahawks initially, because he wanted to stay at home. And so maybe Bobby's like, yeah, I go back with Pete. That's my guy. You know, it'll probably be a lot of familiar faces there that were in Seattle with Pete. So he would know them. But we'll see what Bobby decides to do. I think he wants to stay in Washington. Got a chance to win. Great locker room. You know, everything he needs, and he's still going to Howard. So I think he would want to stay in Washington, but you never know, right? You just never know. Pete Carroll's going to do something at quarterback. It's just hard for me to envision him wanting Russ back when Russ didn't want to stay in Seattle and he tried to get them to get rid of Pete. He almost pulled it's either him or me. And they was like, well, if it's him or you, we choosing Pete. He was like, well, trade me then. I don't know. Maybe it's water under the bridge. They're good now. And maybe Pete's like, I need a guy. Come on, Russ. We'll see. Giants obviously need a quarterback. Who are we fooling, right? They need a quarterback. They got to do something. And that win over the Colts might have cost them an opportunity to draft one. If the Titans are talking reckless, and the Titans have already made it clear that they're willing to move. And if I'm the Giants, I'm like, who you want to do business with? Somebody with the 6th or the 7th or the 10th or the 12th pick, or somebody sitting at 3. All you got to do is move back 2 spots, and I'm going to bless you. Hot you. You get what you want. You still get a generational talent, and you pick up multiple first-round picks in the process. It's a win for everybody. I get my guy, you get your guy, and you get some picks added on as an added bonus just for moving back 2 spots. We'll see what the Giants decide to do. But one thing's for sure, they're not going into next season with Drew Lock as their starting quarterback or Tommy DeVito as their starting quarterback. I can assure you of that. So whether it's Sam Darnold or some veteran quarterback that they sign in free agency, or they draft a quarterback, or do both, their quarterback situation is going to look vastly different than it did this past season. So Jets, we stay right there in New Jersey. Just cross the hallway from Giants to Jets. Aaron Rodgers still technically under contract, and Aaron Glenn, the new head coach there, did say that they are going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, and he's already spoken to Aaron Rodgers to try to get a pulse on what he wants to do. Rodgers wants to play. He doesn't want his career ending on that note. And Glenn may come in there, sweet talk him, smooth things over, get Rodgers back on board. And I told you, I feel like he still got good football left in him. Said the same thing about Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins still has some good football left in him. So I think Rodgers is probably going to be the starting quarterback. If you ask me, who's the day one starter for the New York Jets in the 2025 season opener, I'll tell you it's Aaron Rodgers. But guess what? You still don't have a quarterback behind Aaron Rodgers. So what I'm telling you is you need to find the guy. Aaron Rodgers is 80 years old. You need to find a young quarterback that can. Jackson Dart would be the perfect guy to put behind him because he's like Zach Wilson all over again. Athletic, solid arm. Jackson Dart would make a ton of sense for the Jets. But again, what are you going to do? You need something. You need somebody, anybody. And why not take advantage? I know Aaron Rodgers isn't the best role model, but even if it's just I'm watching Aaron from afar in the quarterback room and seeing how he operates, how he prepares. That's invaluable for a young quarterback. You'd be remiss if you're the Jets and you don't bring Aaron Rodgers back and draft a young quarterback so that young quarterback can see what it's like to be at this level. Because I still think Aaron's going to play well. Like, I'm not giving up on Aaron Rodgers yet. Be invaluable experience for a young quarterback to be behind a future first ballot Hall of Famer. So, Jets clearly need a quarterback because even if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, what if he says, you know what? Have y'all watched? I think I asked y'all this before. Nobody really answered me the last time. Shout out to the over 220 of y'all out there right now watching this pod. Really appreciate y'all. Hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Almost over 220 of y'all and only 69 likes. We can do so much better than that. You know, I like a 2-to-1 ratio of viewers to likes. So hit that like button if you haven't already done so. Truly do appreciate you. But has anybody watched the Enigma Aaron Rodgers documentary? I haven't. And I'm waffling back and forth as to whether I want to add it to my list or not. I've passed it at least 5 times, and I'm like, yeah. I like Dave Chappelle on calling Dancing with the Stars. Not yet, right? Like, if you see me on that shit, it's over, right? Waiting on the judges to critique my cha-cha shit. F that. I need somebody to tell me, nah, that shit was really good, Louie T. You should watch it. I haven't had anybody confirm that for me. And until somebody says, until I get like 2 or 3 people like, yo, no, it's really good, you should watch it, I'm probably just gonna keep passing the shit. So y'all tell me. Did anybody even watch it? Maybe nobody's even watched. Maybe everybody's like me, like wait for somebody to be like, yo, you should check that joint out. Jets need a quarterback. Long story short, Jets need a quarterback. Whether it's a veteran because Aaron Rodgers ain't coming back, or you need a young guy learning behind Rodgers because Rodgers is coming back. They need a quarterback. And then lastly, the Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are stuck in neutral. I feel bad for Steelers fans, actually, because they don't ever look, because Mike Tomlin is so prolific at winning 9 or 10 games every year. They never find themselves in a position drafting low enough or high enough, depending on how you see it. But they never find themselves drafting high enough to get a high level quarterback, so that would require them to trade up, which they don't really love to do necessarily. They've done it in the past. They traded up for Devin Bush. I think that was the last time they traded up in the draft. I could be wrong, but I do remember them trading up for Devin Bush, number 10 overall, I believe. That was the year of the Devins at the linebacker position, Devin White and Devin Bush. That was an abject disaster for the Steelers, but they don't do that very often. So, but they never find themselves in a position to get something elite at the quarterback position, and they go the free agent route, and it wasn't pretty last year. Now, granted, they found ways to win. That's what Tomlin does. The defense steps up. They generate some turnovers. They win some low-scoring games. Chris Boswell makes a bunch of field goals. They won 2 games, I think, last year where they didn't score a single touchdown. First game of the season, Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals, if I'm not mistaken, and they beat the Falcons like 18-10. Right, and they had another game this season. I want to say it was the first Ravens game where they beat the Ravens without scoring a single touchdown. Right, they had another game early in the season against Denver. I think they won that game 13-6, I believe. Like, that shit isn't sustainable, and it wasn't. They got to the end of the season, they ran out of gas. They weren't able to win. They weren't even competitive towards the end of the season. And you're talking about bringing both of those quarterbacks back. Make it make sense. Again, if you're going to go with one of the 2 quarterbacks, either Fields or Russell Wilson, I think it's got to be Fields. But Mike Tomlin made his decision last year when he decided to go with Russell Wilson over Fields, despite Fields winning games. I know it wasn't pretty, and I actually thought it was the right thing to do, was to give Russ a chance, because we knew what it looked like with Fields. It wasn't going to get like exponentially better. That's who he is. That's what it was going to look like. And so you needed to, I felt like you were doing yourself a disservice if you didn't at least give Russ a look to see what that was going to look like. And he came in and he actually gave them a spark and a boost offensively. We know Russ throws the deep ball. That's the problem with Russ, though. It's either a single or a home run, right? He's either striking out or he's hitting it over the fence. And if you're a baseball purist, you can't stand Adam Dunn. And I'm showing my age a little bit, but Adam Dunn was a prolific home run hitter, but he also struck out a ton swinging for the damn fences. And what you really would prefer is a guy that hits home runs, but that's not what he's after. He's hitting for average. And if he just so happens to hit it over the fence, cool. But he's batting .378, and he's hitting 22 home runs, and he's on base percentage is through the roof, and he's a guy that you can rely to make contact. Adam Dunn was a guy that was going to strike out 200 and something times. He was going to hit 45 bombs, but he's going to strike out 225 times to hit those 45 bombs. And you're like, God damn, can you make contact at least? We got a runner at third base. All you got to do is give me a pop fly, and you struck out, right? Now I got 2 outs, and that runner doesn't score. He gets stranded at third base. That's Russell Wilson. Either he's checking the bitch down to somebody underneath, or he's throwing a deep ball. He doesn't work intermediate at all, and that kills you. It kills you. It kills your offense. When you can't hit the 12-yard pass, it's either a check down to the back of the tight end underneath, or a hitch to a receiver, or it's a deep ball to a receiver. There's no in between. And if I'm the Steelers, I don't want either one of them back, but they want one of them back. And if Tomlin has his way, it'd probably be Russell Wilson. But if I'm the Steelers, if I had to choose one, I'd probably go with Justin Fields. But you're literally choosing the lesser of 2 evils. Neither one of them are great options at this point. But they need a quarterback. Both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are both free agents. So they got to make a decision. And whichever one they don't choose, because they're not bringing both of them back, that guy is probably going to be a sought-after commodity. So if they decide we're going to go with Russ, then Justin Fields becomes a very, like, to me, if I'm Indianapolis, go get Justin Fields. Now you got a guy that kind of mirrors that of Anthony Richardson, so you don't have to change the offense all that much. If you're Indy, that makes a ton of sense. If I'm Shane Steichen, I'm like, oh, shit. You're kind of giving me a carbon copy here. But Fields is a better passer than – I'm not going to do that to Justin Fields. He's a better passer than Anthony Richardson. But yikes, right? He is still limited as a passer. But in any event, I digress. So those are all the quarterback needy teams, right? Titans, Browns, Raiders, Giants, Jets, Steelers all need quarterbacks. Saints, Colts, Rams, Seahawks should want quarterbacks this offseason. I've talked about some of the top quarterbacks in the draft. Shador Sanders, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, and Jackson Dart. Those are the names that will probably come off the board first in this draft. Probably spread out throughout the first 4 rounds. And then there are the free agent quarterbacks. And let's take a look at the list of free agent passers. So let's talk about this list because, man, this is not a great list. As I mentioned to you earlier, like, yikes. So Sam Darnold tops this list. He made $10 million this year, right? That's so he's going to be looking for a raise. I think that raise gets him to anywhere between 16 to 18 million. Like, I could see him getting to 20 with incentives. It could get up to 25, but he was on a crash course for 30 mil and he messed it up with those 2 games at the end. But Darnold is still the belle of the ball as far as veteran quarterbacks are concerned that'll be free agents. Let's go through the rest of these names quickly. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, yuck. Jacoby Brissett, bridge. Taylor Heineke, backup. Marcus Mariota, bridge. Drew Lock, Jarrett Stidham, no. Andy Dalton, backup or bridge, however you want to phrase it. Justin Fields, intriguing, but you kind of know what he is, but that's still, again, intriguing. If he doesn't go back to Pittsburgh, I think he kind of goes probably as the second guy behind Darnold that you're intrigued by. Joe Flacco, backup at this point. Jameis Winston, backup at this point. He had a chance in Cleveland to revitalize his career. All he had to do was play well, and he can't. He asked God to deliver him from throwing pick sixes. He should have just asked him in general, just deliver me from throwing picks in general, not necessarily pick sixes. Mac Jones stinks. Carson Wentz, backup at this point. Jimmy Garoppolo, backup at this point. Case Keenum, I didn't even know he was still in the league. Where was he at? Tennessee. Wait, Houston? Okay, he was in Houston. Okay, CJ Stroud didn't get hurt this year, so that makes sense. I didn't even know Case Keenum was still in the league. Yikes. Mason Rudolph, no. Easton Stick, yeah, what is he even still doing in the league? What has he done? Cooper Rush, he'll be an interesting backup option for some team this year. Joshua Dobbs, solid backup option. He's proven that if he has to start, he can be like, if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, Joshua Dobbs is a really good backup quarterback to have. Brandon Allen, Nick Mullins. I mean, do you hear these names that I'm rattling off? Do you hear these names that I'm rattling off? Nick Mullins, Kyle Trask, Josh Johnson, Kyle Allen, Russell Wilson. Obviously, if he doesn't go back to Pittsburgh, he will be a guy that teams will probably want to kick the tires on. Teddy Bridgewater, CJ Beathard, Tyler Huntley, Tim Boyle, Brett Rippon, Jeff Driscoll, Desmond Ridder, Bailey Zapp, Felipe Franks, Sam Ellinger, and Tommy DeVito. So Tommy DeVito is a early rights free agent, and Bailey Zappi and Desmond Ridder are both restricted free agents. So everybody else is UFAs, unrestricted free agents, can sign wherever they want. That is a nasty list of quarterbacks, if I may say so myself. I mean, really, really nasty stuff, man. This is not the year to need a quarterback. And if I don't love the draftable quarterbacks either, right? And now I just gave you the list of veteran quarterbacks that will be available via free agency. That is gross. All right. That is disgusting stuff. So this is not the year to need a quarterback. Bless your heart if you're a fan of a team that needs a signal caller. Good luck. You're going to need it. I'm not telling you that this is the 2022 draft class all over again with Kenny Pickett being the lone first-round pick. and Malik Willis and Matt Corral and Bailey Zappi and Sam Darnold or Sam Howell rather as the quarterbacks that were taken in that draft. I'm not telling you that that's what this is, but it ain't that damn far away. It ain't that damn far away. I can tell you what it ain't. It ain't 2024. It ain't 6 first-round quarterbacks. It ain't, you can't go wrong with either of the first 3 quarterbacks that you take. It ain't that shit. Hell, even last year's free agent crop was finger licking good. Like, you needed a quarterback last year. You could have found you some stuff in free agency. Guys were available. Now, they weren't leaving. They weren't changing teams. But Sam Darnold, look at what he did, right? Look at what Baker Mayfield did. Now, he went back to Tampa Bay, but he was available. He wasn't looking to leave, but he was still available, right? Theoretically speaking. Kirk Cousins was available. Not that that worked out in Atlanta, but he was available, right? I could keep going, but there were a lot of options available. Russell Wilson was available last year. He's available again this year. Justin Fields ended up being traded to Pittsburgh. So a lot of intrigue last year, not so much this year. It is what it is. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys are talking about. And we start with RVA point of views. My guy, what up, man? What's good with you? We just chopped it up at the watch party last week, and that's my guy. Hope you got home safely. He says, what it do, Lou? 2 questions for you, homie. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, 1, do you have any interest in DK Metcalf in Washington? 2, do you don't see Cincy franchise tagging T. Higgins again? Interest in DK Metcalf. I don't have interest in him, but I'm not opposed to him being in Washington, but I don't have interest in him. I'm not really too interested in any receiver that you have to trade for. I'm not opposed to it. Like, I'm not opposed to Garrett Wilson. I'm just not a fan of having to give up capital and paying a guy. So that's what you would have to do with T. Higgins. Probably what you would have to do with Garrett Wilson too. So DK Metcalf is an interesting guy because he's not like a technician as a route runner or anything like that. He can stretch the field vertically. Obviously, he's a physical specimen. You can do a lot with DK Metcalf, but I'm not super interested in him, but I'm not interested. My thing is, you probably would be better served going after someone that you just have to sign. You don't have to give up any draft capital for. I think DK just got a deal maybe 2 years ago. So I don't think you have to, if you traded for him, you'd have to give him new money. But feel like he signed that same offseason that Terry signed. And Terry is about to need a new deal next year. So he can't be that far away from needing a new deal himself. And then 2, no, I don't see Cincinnati franchise tagging T. Higgins again. It's too expensive. They've already done it once. Remember, keep in mind, they have to pay Jamar Chase this offseason. They didn't pay him last offseason. They pushed it off to this offseason. They're going to pay Jamar Chase. They're going to make him the highest paid receiver in football. You can't then have T. Higgins counting, $37 million against your cap. It doesn't make any sense for them. Either they're going to reach a long-term deal with Higgins, which they're not, because last year, the negotiations with T. Higgins never exceeded $20 million a year. This man is going to make upwards of $30 million this year, somewhere in that neighborhood, 28, 29, 30. They didn't even get over $20 million in their negotiations with him last year. So there's no way they're going to jump all the way from, hey, we were offering T. Higgins, a 4-year extension for $72 million. And T was like, what? 18 a year? Are you kidding me right now? I mean, are you serious? because they've already said we can re-sign both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but it's got to be friendly for the team. It's got to be contractually friendly. He's not signing a deal that's going to short him 40 to $45 million over the life of his contract. You're right. So no, he's not getting franchise tagged in Cincinnati. Not happening. So I don't see that happening. Y'all give me 1 second. I think the kids' TV stopped. My son is like, what's going on? Give me 1 second. All right, got that handled. So, no, I don't see him being franchise tagged. JP, my guy John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy JP writes, did you see Cam Newton say on First Take that Dallas should tank 2025 to draft Arch and hire Saban? When I saw that nonsense, I laughed. I mean, I already told you I don't watch those shows for that exact reason right there. That's a ridiculous take. But it's something that you say on ESPN because they're into those types of ridiculous takes that make people click on it. Like you can chop that up, put that in a short, and people will watch that, right? That's something that's a headline. Newton says he rather keep MVP over a Super Bowl. Like that's some shit that you can, clip, put up on YouTube as a short. That's something that you can write a quick article on. It's something that makes people want to tune in, right? That's ridiculous. You don't sign Dak Prescott to the contract that you signed him to tank so that you can replace him in 2025 with another quarterback. If Dallas was going to do that, then don't re-sign Dak. Roll with your boy Trey Lance, and he'll get you to 2-3 wins, and you'll be able to draft Arch Manning that way. You're not tanking with. Look, Jerry's trying to win a Super Bowl. He don't know how many more years he's got left on this earth. And you think he's trying to waste a whole season so that he can get a young guy that he doesn't know if he's going to be good or not in the NFL? Yeah, right. Nick Saban to the NFL? Nah, no, not happening. But, Cam says a lot of crazy shit. He says a lot of crazy shit. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, my sympathies to the people who crashed. Remember, when it's all said and done, we are all in this together. Yeah, that was wild, man. I saw that and I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was surreal. Like, what kind of AI shit is this? That's what I was thinking at first. Like, man, this AI shit is going too far. And then I was like, wait a minute, is this real? And at first I thought I was watching the crash from the other day. And then it was like, nah, this one is in Philly. I'm like, wait, what? So another plane crashed? And that's wild, man. Prayers up for all those impacted and affected. Crazy stuff. The Washington Chef, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. The Washington Chef writes, in your opinion, Louie, do you think Jaden Daniels would have a slump like CJ Stroud in the 2025 season, or would he exceed expectations in his rookie year? For me, I think he's going to excel. I mean, I've already said he's better than CJ Stroud. See, the problem with CJ Stroud is he doesn't run. He doesn't use his legs. The thing that gives me confidence that Jaden is going to, at a bare minimum, be just as good, if not better, than he was in his rookie season, is because he's going to have better talent around him, but more importantly, he's got Cliff coming back. So you don't have to learn the offense next year. Now they can put more on his plate, but he's got the rapport with the offensive coordinator who knows what he likes, what he doesn't like. He doesn't have to learn a new offense, new terminology, none of that. He can just go out and play. And so there's a comfort level that comes with, you know me, I know you. Let's go out and get it done. I know the offense. Let's rock and roll. So that's a benefit. CJ Stroud had the same thing, right? He had his same offensive coordinator from his rookie season, and Bobby Slowick. But CJ don't run. That's the problem, right? CJ didn't run. And keep in mind, they put talent around CJ, and CJ was playing well to start the season off. It wasn't until that talent started to get hurt that his play started to suffer. So as much as people try to tell you CJ Stroud had a slump, CJ was playing well till them injuries hit. But this is the difference between Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud needs talent. Like his rookie season, he elevated Noah Brown. Like, I don't want to sit here and make it seem like CJ was out here playing with the likes of, the guys he had at the beginning of his second season, because he wasn't. But he didn't have slouches either. He had Nico Collins, he had Tank Dell, and like Noah Brown stepped up, and he had Dalton Schultz. It's not like he had bums around him. He had some stuff, and he was able to play well when the injuries took effect. And there was no Noah Brown to step up this time around. And there was Stephon Diggs was gone, and Tank Dell was gone, or Tank Dell was out there, but Nico wasn't out there. And it was just, he was having to rely on Hutchinson and guys like that. He struggled. He refused to use his legs until, the playoffs showed up. That's when he started using his legs, and that's when I thought he was his most dangerous. Jaden's going to use his legs. And that's something you got to worry about. That man rushed for over 800 yards this year. He was our leading rusher. Like, he poses a different level of threat that CJ Stroud just doesn't. So I expect him to be really good again. But, we'll see what happens. It's going to be a different level of competition. You're playing, some really good quarterbacks, Mahomes and Herbert. And obviously you're playing against all those rookies. And it's going to be different. It's going to be different. So we're going to see what happens. But I'm confident. Let's get to see if we get a couple of comments from the comment section. NES Tecmo writes, no one is better than Liaison Al-Gib. That's why I want the Giants to pick one. It was crazy because when we did our nicknames for the players on the team, Sam Hartman gave out all of JD5's nicknames, and that was one of them. And I was like, what? It was funny, though. So, yeah, good luck. You're going to need one. And I don't know if you're going to find one in this draft, but we'll see. Let's see. Niners fan. Right. So what's up with these random T. Higgins to Niners rumors? McAfee and Lombardi were talking about it. It makes no sense because we don't have the money and bigger needs. Um, again, it's lion season. You know, you hear a little something, you throw it out there. Again, McAfee has a show that he has to, you know, talk about. Um, Lombardi ain't he at North Carolina now? Like again, it. I wouldn't read too much into it. Of all of the destinations that Higgins could end up at, I don't think that's one of them, and neither do you. He more likely to end up in L.A. with the Chargers, with the Broncos, in Denver, even New England, you know, with the Patriots before he ends up in San Francisco. Obviously, Washington is another destination. The Titans could use a receiver. So, I mean, there's plenty of places he can go with teams with a ton of cap space that could use a number one receiver, or in the case of Washington, a number two or a 1B, whatever you want to consider him. He ain't going to San Francisco. I don't see that. Niners fan writes, where does Brock rank in the NFC? I think he's fourth behind JD, Hurts, and Goff. Stafford's older, so I would take Brock right now. I probably put him behind Stafford too. I'd say he probably fifth. All those quarterbacks you named, and then slide him in behind all of them. Because yeah, Stafford's old, but fully capable. Fully capable. So I'd probably put him behind Stafford. Um, Kyler just does too much stupid shit. I mean, because you could easily throw Jordan Love in there, right? You could easily take a look at Love. You could take a look at Kyler Murray, but until he proves me otherwise, Kyler Murray's a loser. And for me, I like Jordan Love. I don't love Jordan Love. And I was a big Jordan Love fan coming out of Utah State, but I don't love Jordan Love. So I could see how you could put Brock Purdy behind Jordan Love as well, put him sixth in the conference. I'm not going to do him like that. I'll put him fifth behind Stafford. All right. Let's see. Okay. Zo Life, No Life. Right. So imagine DJ Reed or Charvarius Ward next to Lattimore. That is scary. I would like Mooney Ward. How old is he? I think I already looked it up, and I think he's pushing 30. I think he getting up there in age. I think he got to be 28 or 29. Let's find out how old Mooney Ward is. About to look it up right now. Here we go. Cornerback. He is 29, so he will be 30 before the season starts. Well, Mooney Ward. So while we're on the subject matter, let me just look at these free agent corners while I'm here. See if there's any names that intrigue me. Man, he coming off injury. He would have been intriguing. He's interesting. Don't love him, but wonder what he would command on the free agent market. There is not a lot here. That is for certain. One of Dan Quinn's old buddies is available. Now, I'm not moved. He's interesting. Don't know if I love him either, but he's interesting and he's young. Another young corner available. Very interesting there. He's a penalty magnet, though. Nah, I don't think I love that. Yeah, this is some nasty work out here. I'm gonna tell you, this cornerback thing is real nasty. It's some names out here where you go, interesting, but yeah. Mooney Ward about to be 30 though, so you got to be careful with some of that. You know, you don't want to be getting too many 30 something, especially corner. I already told you that's one of them positions. No country for old men, so you got to be careful with that. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Yep. You spot on. Zo life, no life. Right. Give some love to Baker Mayfield. I think he above Brock. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Baker Mayfield is better than Brock Purdy as well in Tampa. Shame on me. So I'd put him above Brock. So that would put Brock at 6 in the NFC right now. Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. I would put him at, I mean, is he better than Dak Prescott? Is Brock Purdy better than Dak Prescott? Now, I know he's won in the playoffs, and hell, he beat him head to head a couple of years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. But is he better than Brock? Is he better than Brock Purdy? Or excuse me, is he better than Dak Prescott? I'm not sure if he's even better than Dak Prescott. Like, we got to be honest with ourselves on Brock Purdy. Because I can make a case for him being like 8th. Slide Dak in front of him and Jordan Love in front of him. We got him at 6 right now. You slide Dak in front of him, he's at 7. You slide Jordan Love in front of him, he's at 8. I don't think he's any further than 8, but I could see that. I could see somebody being like, yo, come on now. You taking Dak Prescott or Brock Purdy? And they like, I'm taking Dak Prescott. I would be like, okay, I can see that. It's an interesting debate. Just the fact that he potentially could be taking a Daniel Jones type deal kind of speaks to where he is at the quarterback position. It's good on him to say, I'm going to take what my market value is, and I'm not going to hurt the team. It allows us to free up some cap space and to be able to do other things. But at the same time, the fact that he's even in a position where the team feels comfortable enough offering him that tells you about where he is in the quarterback realm. Jordan Love wasn't taking that kind of money. You know, they had to break him off. Dak obviously is one of the highest paid players in the league. So I could see a scenario in which you do that. But yes, Baker Mayfield is definitely over Brock Purdy. Good call. Good call. Jeremiah, right? So if you had to make one trade this offseason, who would it be and who would you give up? I don't know. Hard to say. So many people want to give up one of the defensive tackles, Payne or Allen. I don't know what I would do. I don't know who I would trade for. None of that. I gotta kind of. I'm one of those people that want to kind of see things develop a bit. I haven't really thought about what I would do, who I want gone, who I want back. Like I literally just broke the seal on that with the conversation about which free agents that are currently on our squad that we need to try to re-sign. Who do we want back? as far as those guys are concerned. 29 free agents for the Commanders coming up this year. How many of those do you want back? So, who are you trading for? I mean, if I could just trade for anybody, like realistically, not like, okay, I'm going to trade for the best player in football type deal. But at one point, Myles Garrett was someone that was, I would trade for Myles Garrett. And I'd give up whatever it took to get him, but he's not available. Andrew Berry, the GM of the Browns at the Senior Bowl, said, we're not trading Myles Garrett, and that's that. Teams have been calling. We're not even picking up the phone. So that's that. All right. Let's get to our final segment of the show. And that, of course, is garbage time. So let's talk about it. Justin Tucker. My guy, J Tuck. Say it ain't so, Justin. Say it ain't so, my guy. So, right now, Justin Tucker is being accused of inappropriate sexual misconduct, or in this case, inappropriate misconduct sexually. So, word on the street is he's on some Deshaun Watson type shit at massage parlors where he's forcing the workers to touch him in his genitals. And he's been not only kicked out, but banned from several massage parlors in the Baltimore area. Now, these said incidents were said to have occurred multiple years ago, but people have kind of vetted these situations and they're like, yo, we think there's some validity to this shit. According to some reports, the Ravens knew about these allegations way before it got out to the, masses, and they did nothing about it. They kind of they've got a track record, do the Ravens organization, in knowing about shit before time and not doing a damn thing about it until they kind of get forced to. Remember the Ray Rice situation? They had the video, they knew what he did, and they weren't going to do anything to Ray until the video got out. And then it was like, oh shit. Hey, we got to suspend you, Ray, bro. Like, sorry. Like, we got to do this. We got to save face. So this isn't the first time the Ravens knew about something and didn't do anything, if in fact it is true. But come on, Justin, man. You can't be on some Deshaun Watson shit. Now, I've seen some crazy ass memes and shit going on with this whole situation, right? Somebody had, like, shout out to Miss Perry Condo P, aka El Presidente, right? She sent me a GIF, or it was a post, but it was a GIF of Tom Brady. The one where he's kind of like sitting in a courtroom and he spins around and he looks and he starts smiling. And the person posted, Deshaun Watson when he sees Justin Tucker. And it was Tom Brady sitting in his chair, and then he spins around and he starts cheesing because he sees somebody he knows. I want to say it was from Deflategate, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. But it was hilarious. Like, there have been so many jokes. I seen the Browns gave up 3 first-round picks to get Justin Tucker since he's been, drugged into this situation. So, like, people that got all kind of jokes. But on a serious note, I hope this shit isn't true. But generally, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, we gonna play devil's advocate here. On one end, where there's smoke, there's fire. There could be some validity to this. He may have gotten himself into a little bit of hot water here, and he may have done some shit he wasn't supposed to do. Peyton Manning once upon a time did some shit he wasn't supposed to do. Now he was a lot younger, and obviously when Justin Tucker reportedly did this, he was a lot younger than he is now. But still, the fact remains he did the shit. If Peyton did it when he was in college, his family was able to get that shit swept under the rug. They paid the person off, and it went away. But it doesn't change the fact that he did some shit he wasn't supposed to do. Tucker might be the same deal. Bottom line is, we just watched another kicker. Coincidentally enough, it was another kicker, Brandon McManus, go through a similar situation with the flight when he was in Jacksonville to London. The flight attendants said that he was inappropriate. He made gestures. He tried to kind of get them to fondle him, etc., etc. They were uncomfortable, and he was found not guilty of those charges, and then later signed by the Green Bay Packers. So you could go on either side of this thing and say, hey, could be another Deshaun Watson, because Deshaun Watson initially denied all of that shit, and then was like, all right, y'all got me. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I was getting happy endings and shit, and I was addicted to them shits. Like, he finally was like, all right, I'm gonna keep paying them off because I did that shit. Justin Tucker is, and that's what you do. Even when you guilty, you vehemently argue against the fact that you're guilty, right? You proclaim your innocence. These allegations are frivolous, right? In their merit, right? Your lawyer draws up this, like, you read that letter, you're like, bro, your lawyer just drew this up for you. Like, you didn't even try to make this shit sound reasonable. Sounds like some lawyer jargon here. But at the end of the day, he has a reputation to try to keep intact. This, even if it's not true, could tarnish his image. But this was written in the Baltimore. It was some kind of like random, like the Baltimore Battle or some publication, some shit I never heard of before. But other people have like gone and done homework, and they kind of like substantiated, like, yo, he's a serial offender and he's been banned from multiple establishments in the area because of his behavior. So I don't know if this is true or not, but it's not looking good for Justin Tucker. And what the F, bro? Look, I'm not even gonna go down that road and accuse him. But this is the thing I'll say. I always say this in these situations. Kickers are freaky ass frogs. It made me think of Kendrick Lamar when you say that shit. Here's what I'll say. Generally speaking, if you're not doing anything wrong or even putting yourself in a position to be accused, then your name isn't going to come up in some bullshit, right? Like, if you minding your business, if you where you supposed to be, when you supposed to be there, you're not putting yourself in any position to be implicated in some shit you don't belong in, then your name ain't gonna come up. You ain't never once heard Tim Tebow's name come up in some shit that it don't belong in. Never. Not once. You don't have to like Tim Tebow. You don't have to like what he stands for. But you ain't never once heard somebody say, you know what? Tim Tebow did this to me. Because that shit ain't happening. Like, he ain't putting himself in that position. Right? And we could go on and on with other guys in the league who are God-fearing men who live their life the right way, etc. Whatever that means, right? Whatever the right way is, they're not putting themselves in a position to be accused of sexual misconduct. I'm not saying that Justin Tucker did this shit, but the fact that he has put himself in a position for us to be having this conversation probably means he did some shit he wasn't supposed to be doing. That's my guess. Or at a bare minimum, he put himself in a position where this could be a situation. Whether he committed an act or not, whether he, did something he wasn't supposed to do that was inappropriate, we can't say. Football players get massages all the time. Athletes get massages all the time. There's nothing illegal about that. Did he put himself in a position where a female employee felt uncomfortable? That is a question. We don't know the answer to that. My guess is this is going to go the way of Brandon McManus because it's his word against hers. And unless you have some sort of concrete, rock solid evidence proving that he committed acts of sexual misconduct, there's no way to really prove it. So unless you got like video footage of this man taking your hand and putting it on his penis, I don't know how you get a courtroom or you get the court of public opinion to side with you. So we'll see, but let's just hope Justin Tucker is clean in this situation. Because right now, he looking like a dirty ass 69 god. Run for your life. Run for your life. Hey, Bruce Brandon, what you trying to do to me, man? What you trying to do to me out here, man? Pause. Chill, bro. Chill out, man. What you trying to do out here? All right. So that's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T. I got one more super. We'll knock that out, and then we'll get out of here. Juan Gotti talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Juan Gotti talking sports. Writes, McLaurin breaks loose. Lightning strikes twice in Washington. Damn, Lou, we really can't see the fellas for 6 months. No, that was the bittersweet part of putting together that montage of the season and just like close your eyes and just listen to it and let it rock. And you could play those plays back in your head and you can visualize them. And it was fun because I got caught up watching the games. Like, as I'm supposed to be extracting the audio, I'm watching the shit. And I'm just like, we'll never see this team, right? This iteration of the Commanders again. Not only that, but I don't get to see these boys for another 6 months. Last year, we couldn't wait to get their ass off the field. We wanted the season to be over. We couldn't wait till they got off the field. This year, we're like, damn, we got to wait 6 whole months to see them play again. It's going to be a long 6 months, too. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's going to be a long 6 months, Juan. A long 6 months. Watch. Now, the offseason will get us through, and, the draft ain't even going to be as fun this year. Because I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we could sit through 2 hours and 49 minutes of draft in the first round only for Adam Peters to trade out of the first round altogether. How mad would some of y'all be? I wouldn't be mad. I get it. I'm actually kind of expecting it to happen. I'll probably, if I were a betting man, I would probably tell you that I would bet on us trading out of the first round more so than us making a selection. Now, again, there's no guarantees that that's what's going to happen. But obviously, you got to see what happens in front of you. Could be some really good football players left on the board when your pick is up and it's time for you to select. And you're like, oh, hell no, I ain't trading out of this. But you could also be on the board and you're like, yo, it's no more first round, picks available. And if somebody's like, yo, I want to come back in the first round to get Jackson Dart, get us a quarterback. Hey, my pick is available. But some people would be pissed off. You sit there for 2 hours and 50 minutes waiting on a selection that never comes. That's got to be rough, but it happens all the time. Teams trade out of the first round, back into the first round all the time. So anyway, I digress. Yeah, good memories, man. A lot of good shit happened in 2024. What a season. Hate that it ended in the way that it did, but what a season. Yeah, we got to wait 6 whole months to see the fellas. Damn shame. But hopefully we got a brand new squad that looks better than ever. Looking forward to it. I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I thank each and every single one of y'all for joining the kid. Once again, if you haven't already done so, hit the like button. That helps this channel grow exponentially. Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content if you haven't already done so. And turn on that notification bell. Be a part of the Noti gang, man. Make sure you turn that notification bell on because you never know when I'm going live. Just like tonight. This is a perfect example. Y'all didn't know I was going live. Shit, I didn't know I was going live. And then voila, here we are. 9:45 at night. On live. Chopping it up. You just never know with the Louie T Network. So turn on that notification bell. And I appreciate everybody who hit the like button. I like that 2-to-1 ratio. Y'all have achieved 2-to-1 ratio status. That's why y'all my people. Love y'all. With that said, I'm going to glide to the side, get out of here, allow y'all to enjoy the rest of your Friday evening, and we will reconvene on Monday. Next time I see y'all, it will be February. The calendar will have turned to the second month of the year, the month of love. We'll see. We'll talk then. And we'll start prepping for the Super Bowl. Eagles, Chiefs, rematch of the Super Bowl 57. So we'll be all over that next week. We'll see if the Saints hire a head coach. Maybe they'll wait till after the Super Bowl to talk to Kellen Moore again. So my guess is they'll wait. It's not a high profile job. It's not a job people are after. My guess is they'll probably wait until after the Super Bowl so they can talk to Kellen Moore again and see if he'll take the job because he's the only guy left that can get Saints fans excited. Any other hire, it feels like at this point, is going to be sort of a knee-jerk reaction to nobody wants our job. Let's just get somebody so we don't look desperate. And it's a tough situation, but I digress. Got another super chat from my guy Juan Gotti talking sports. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, trade for DK on draft night? That's my hot take. Again, they're not going to give DK away. You're going to have to. Now, would you give up 29 for DK? Would you give up 29 for Garrett Wilson? Yeah, you would. Absolutely. Right? That's the equivalent of spending your first round pick on a rookie. The only difference is DK's already been paid, so you're going to be paying him pretty good money. And Garrett hasn't been paid yet, and he's younger, but you're going to have to pay him eventually. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. DK's name has come up, and with the emergence of Jackson Smith and Jigba, Maybe he is available, but I just still think about their receiver situation, and I'm like, Tyler Lockett is on his last legs. Like, he's the one to trade isn't DK. It would be like, I'm not saying that you trade Tyler Lockett, but he'd be the one that you'd be looking to move on from. Like, DK should be going into the prime of his career. And Jackson Smith and Jigba had a career year this past year. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's a Pro Bowler this year. Why would you want to break that up? That doesn't make any sense. But, we'll see. DK's name is popping up a lot, and where there's smoke, there's fire. So I won't dismiss it. That's for damn sure. I wouldn't dismiss it if I were you. But that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 479th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. Until then, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next time. Prayers up to all those impacted by the 2 plane crashes this week. 2 in 1 week. Somebody in the comment section, I think it was my guy E, said we hadn't had a major plane crash in the U.S. since 2019. Not with a bunch of casualties. Obviously, Kobe had his plane crash in 2020. But like a major plane crash with a bunch of casualties, we ain't had one of those since 2009. We had 2 in 1 week. What in the hell is going on? Prayers up to all those impacted. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless. Good night.